Slavery is a deplorable notion. One person owning another is just not acceptable in today's world. But history bears out the ugly truth of rich, white plantation owners in Southern America owning black Americans and treating them with harsh physical punishments if they went against the owner's wishes. However, those television documentaries and references in history books seldom explore the very personal horrors faced by those who were enslaved some 2 centuries ago. Here are some instances where slaves were forced into extreme sexual behaviors and reproducing children to replenish the number of slaves solely for the benefit of their masters. Number 1. Slave women were subjected to many sexual improprieties. Among them were violations by their masters and their sons, forced matings, and arranged marriages. Number 2. Historian E. Franklin Frazier said stockmen were weighed and tested before being put into a room with young women to mate for the purpose of bearing children. Number 3. By the end of the 18th century, the breeding of slaves was a common practice. Laws were changed so the public could view slaves as things instead of people, so the owner could do with them as he wished. Slave owners even began believing that slavery was grounded in the Bible. Number 4. American slaves in 1860 were worth $4 billion, which was far more than the $228 million worth of gold and silver circulating back then. Even the value of southern farmland, $1.92 billion, did not amount to the worth of the slaves. So for the owners, their slaves were worth everything to them. Number 5. The mortality rate among slaves was very high, so their owners would often encourage or force them to have children. Even at the age of 13, females were expected to begin having children to replenish the slave stock. They were expected to have 4 or 5 children by the age of 20. They were often encouraged by their owners to do this with the promise of freedom. Number 6. Female slaves who did not cooperate with their owners to bear children for them would be subjected to many and various punishments, both mental and physical. Number 7. In some instances, the females who bore children for their owners were given gifts, including extra clothing, the withdrawal of any harsh treatment, and sometimes, if their quota was met, freedom. Number 8. Women who did not or could not bear children would not be given any breaks or rewards that were given to mothers, and they would do the same work on the level of men. Number 9. If a woman was deemed infertile, she would sometimes be separated from her family, and owners would sometimes split up married couples and require them to choose new partners. Number 10. Male slaves at the age of 15 were inspected to see if they could breed well. If it was deemed that they could not, their testicles would be castrated. Over the course of 5 years, each young male was expected to get at least 12 female slaves pregnant. According to the slave narratives, a male slave named Bert was said to have fathered over 200 children. Number 11. Plantation owners would often take the pretty female slaves and put them to work in the household. But if the owner showed affections or gave favors to the pretty girl, his wife would subject her to torture. If the pretty slave bore a child, the owner's wife would behead that child. Number 12. To provide entertainment for his friends, the plantation owner would sometimes arrange orgies among the male and female slaves. His friends would be allowed to join in them. Number 13. A slave wife could never be faithful to her husband, as most owners demanded she have affairs with other men, nor was she allowed to remain pure or virtuous. Number 14. Some male slaves were purchased by their owners solely by the size of their penis, and the black men were often raped by their gay slave owners. This process was called breaking the buck. And finally, number 15. Not all owners abandoned the children they fathered with female slaves. Some would provide them with education and money, and some owners even set free their mistresses and mixed-race children. That's...
So tell me this, black man, black woman. In those times in ancient Africa, or even in the Indian villages, do you think that we practice that kind of culture? Did we treat our women like that? See, this is why I don't like to really entertain comments, because there's too many immature black people that we got. See, they don't even research their own history. So this is a argument for reparations. So what Epstein and sex trafficking and all like that is nothing new. The white man been practicing that over in ancient London town. Prostitution. Yeah, because he didn't view sex, and he didn't treat his woman like the black man treated his woman. Because the Caucasian was in the caves. And completely lost the knowledge of self until we came and raised him up. So this is the way he did us after we gave him an education of how to survive on the planet. You see how he treated us. This ain't nothing new, man. Sex trafficking. Ain't nothing new. We're gonna go back into the cowboy days. You know, we're gonna go back to then on upcoming videos. At one time, prostitution and pimping was legal. One time, getting high for all kind of things was legal. Opium. They indicate this in that movie with Kirk Russell, with Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. What was the name of it? Tombstone or something like that. Anyway, they was getting high for opium and killing up people. They were allowed to carry guns, you know, allowed to shoot you if you look at them wrong. So this is the Wild Wild West. This is the Wild Wild Jungle, the Wild Wild Swamp. So black man, you didn't, you know, this wasn't your thing. You adopted this. After 500 years of living in this mess, you adopted it. So Master Rod came to tell you how you were before slavery, how you were, what kind of culture you were living in before the Caucasian was even on the planet. A lot of brothers and sisters don't want to accept it. They don't want to think that, you know, we were here before the Caucasian living good. And then when he came with his lies and murdering like he's doing now, and we still can't accept it. A lot of us still can't accept it. We call ourselves Americans. I'm African American. That's what y'all call. That's what y'all say. Get mad too. Think you better than some of them Africans because those Africans, you know, they look down on us. You know, some of them do because we're not standing up and being men. See, a black woman, she think money make the man. No, man make the money. But we not acting like that. A lot of y'all don't want to hear this, but truth is truth. You know, we got to stand up, be men. You know, and call it like it is, man. So that's the way the American cookie crumbles. So look, we're going to get back into this. This is to be continued.